Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reed of Future Pastimes, and in this video I wanted to talk about a recap of Cosmic Encounter Invitational number 3. We played in Tabletop Simulator with special guests. So in that game, we had playing original Cosmic Encounter designer Bill Eberly, and joining us from Future Pastimes, but not playing, was original designer Peter Alaka and Greg Alaka. I was playing as well, and we had some special guests. So we had board game designer Corey Koneska, who is known for designing Mansions of Madness and one of my favorite games, Battlestar Galactica, among many others. My good friend Brian Kirk, who is a designer who worked on the Jaws board game, E.T., The Fast and the Furious, Villainous, Back to the Future, and a bunch of others. And then we had Cosmic Encounter Galactic Champion from 2020, Mary Murphy. So it was an interesting game. A couple of the players hadn't played in a while, so Corey and Brian. So we stuck to green alert aliens, no variants other than flares. So no reward deck, which had an interesting effect on the game. So playing in that game, we had Bill was playing the Assessor, and all the aliens that we used were from Cosmic Odyssey. So we decided to showcase the aliens from the 7th latest expansion for Cosmic. Came out last year at Gen Con. Assessor has the power to attack, so after another player, as the offense or an ally, sends more than one ship into the encounter, then Assessor is going to be drawing a card at random from their hand and placing it on the sheet. And then if they're at the end of any encounter, if Assessor has 8 or more cards on the sheet, they can take one of them and discard the others. But in the meantime, whenever another player would draw cards as rewards or part of a new hand, Assessor can give them a card from their sheet as a refund in lieu of one of the cards that they would be gaining. So this had a pretty profound effect on the game overall, which I'll explain here in a little bit. Corey was playing as Inferno. So Inferno has 5 additional copies of the Inferno Flare that get shuffled into the deck after hands are dealt. And Inferno is kind of the Vault of Flares. They have the power to flare. After another player plays a flare and attempts to return it to their hand, Inferno can take that card instead. And then when Inferno has no encounter cards and would just discard their hand, they reveal any flares, set them aside, draw their hand, and then put the flares back in. Now, the reason that you got the 5 additional copies is because the Inferno Super is if Inferno has 5 flares and 2 of them are Inferno flares, they win the game immediately. So they are trying to gather up the flares and then get 2 of their own in order to win as an alternate win condition. And the wild effect has, it's very tempting to use if you have it. It basically is letting you add a plus 20 and then maybe additional 10, 20, 30 more, depending on if other players on your side will discard flares from their hand. So it's one of those things where you're going to win the encounter if you do it, but you're going to be giving Inferno that flare if you do, so it's kind of risky. Mary was playing with Booster, and Booster was originally a promo alien from Escape Velocity, but it was included in Cosmic Odyssey. So this is the power of Escape Velocity. When you launch ships as the offense or as an ally, use this power. If you launch 1 or 2 ships, discard the same number of cards from your hand. If you have any, if you launch 3 or more, draw 1 card to add to your hand, then discard 1. So this is a hand optimizing alien. It lets you shed cards you don't want. And if you are risking a lot of ships, then you're able to draw a card, so potentially get something better and then get rid of something you don't necessarily need. But again, Assessor had a big impact on that one. Brian was playing as Tentacle. Tentacle has the power of appendages. As a main player or ally, after encounter cards are revealed, use the power. Choose 1 revealed encounter card that has a numerical value and add each of the value's digits to that size total. So the example is if you reveal a 15, the 15 is made of a 1 and a 5, so you would add 1 and a 5 to that 15, making it a 21. So this is an alien that can turn your low encounter cards into much better encounter cards. And some of your really high ones just get a little bit higher. So at one point, we had Brian revealed a 30. He added the 3 to it, so it was really a 33. But even without the plus 3, he was winning that encounter with the 30. And then I was playing as Guardian. So Guardian, it's an ally-only alien. After encounter cards are revealed, you use the power to change the value of Guardian ships for the encounter total. Each of their ships is worth the number of ships that the main player on Guardian side has. So if the main player has 3 ships in the encounter, then each of Guardian ships is worth 3. So this is one where if the main player is going to be inviting Guardian, they want to make sure they have a lot of ships in the encounter, because that really boosts up the power level for the encounter totals for Guardian. But again, because of Assessor, there were some mixed results on there. So it was a really interesting game, even without the reward deck in there or any other bells and whistles. There was a lot of interesting interactions that went on. For a long time, Corey was at 0 colonies, but he kept saying, I'm going to have an epic comeback. And by the end of the game, he was getting very close, not only to getting to 5 colonies, but he was picking up flares. In fact, in the very first encounter, Brian played the Tentacle Super Flare, and he didn't really need to, because we were probably going to win that encounter anyway. But the result was that Corey was like, I'll be taking that flare, thank you very much. And Brian griped about that a couple of times later on, good-naturedly, of course. But yeah, the Guardian wanted to be an ally, but in a lot of the encounters where I was brought in as an ally, there was only 1 ship. Certainly on the offense, if they're only bringing 1 ship, my ship is only worth 1 ship. There was one point where Bill was being attacked on a planet where he had 0 ships, and he did invite me, and I was very tempted to bring along 4 ships, but they would have counted as 0. Would have been just adding absolutely nothing to the encounter, and if he'd won, I would have gotten 4 rewards. But I think by the time he realized that I had sent 4 ships that were not contributing at all, he would have been even less incentivized to win that encounter. So I think it was wise of me to not even be involved, even though it turned out that the defense did win on that, because Corey played a reinforcement, and that tied it up. That was when Mary was attacking Bill, and to get her 4th colony, and she had just drawn a new hand, so I was convinced that she probably had picked up the 40 by then. We hadn't seen it, and we were getting pretty low into the cosmic deck. As it turned out, by the end of that game, nobody had drawn the 40. I had 2 turns, starting my turn with 3 colonies, and invited everybody to join me, but nobody was going to help me get to 4, because they were all afraid that I had a trick up my sleeve that would help me go for the win by myself at 5. And that was mostly thanks to Bill, who has played enough with me to know that if I were able to do that sort of thing, I definitely would. But I had a lousy hand at the end of the game. So there was just no way that I was going to be able to go for it alone. What I did end up doing was I ended up making a deal to get to 4 colonies, or actually Brian helped Brian get to 4. Brian actually got to 4 ahead, so I got up to 4 colonies. We made a deal, and then I was hoping to draw Brian again, because I had the emotion control in my hand, so I knew that I could get us into a deal situation. And by then, all the card zaps had been played, all the quashes had been played, so I knew that there was pretty much nothing anybody could do to stop it. He didn't trust me, though, because the rest of the players were like, Jack's going to screw you, don't try to make a deal. And I was like, no, Brian, I'll make a deal. And so they all had allied against me. There was a lot of up there, and Brian he did play an attack card, even though I revealed a negotiate, but I used the emotion control, and Brian took the deal. So he and I ended up sharing that win, which for me means I'm 3 for 3 on being on the winning side of the Cosmic Encounter Invitationals. And I'm sure that, having pointed that out, I pretty much have sealed my fate. And at the next Invitational that I play in, I am certain that I will not do as well. But we'll see. If I get a good alien in the mix of aliens, and get lucky with my hand draw, and I'm able to convince players to play nicely, I might be able to pull off another win. Haven't won solo, and that's fine with me. I mean, the solo win is great. It's brag-worthy, but I would rather be part of a shared win than a shared loss. So so far, And our first Invitational, everyone won except for Charles. If he had joined the offense, and he was invited to, everyone would have won that game, because as Cloak, I picked up my 5th colony through trickery and subterfuge. And an Invitational, too, it was me and Jeremy Upton sharing the win on that one. And I think we were both pretty happy with that outcome. And it was fun for me to share the win with my friend Brian. I've known Brian for over 20 years. And I love playing games with Brian. So it was a happy outcome. But I would have been happy winning that game with anybody. So, because that's just how I am. So the link for the game is in the description. You can watch that and get all the juicy details on it. And let me know what you think of those aliens and that mix of aliens. And we are going to be having more Invitationals and opening it up to just big fans of Cosmic Encounter. You don't have to have a YouTube channel or be a renowned designer or galactic champion. We will be inviting other people to play Cosmic Encounter with some of the original designers, and me and Greg as well. So let us know if you want to be a part of that. We're also going to be having Invitationals on other games. So we'll be doing a Dune Invitational, an Arrakis Invitational, Firefly Misbehaving Invitational in the coming months. So let us know if you'd be interested in that as well. Send an email to info@futurepastimes.com. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.